Ruth and Naomi, a story of loyalty, faith, and redemption that will touch your heart. There are stories that transcend time, teaching us valuable lessons about love, faith, and perseverance. Today, I invite you to dive into one of the most touching narratives in the Bible, the story of Ruth and Naomi. This is not just a story about loss and hardship, but also about unwavering friendship, courage in the face of the unknown, and how God can use even the most painful circumstances to bring redemption and hope. Let us follow how a young foreigner and her mother-in-law, both marked by sorrow, trusted in God's purpose and had their lives completely transformed. It is a journey that shows us that even in adversity, God is silently working on something much greater. But before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Doing so not only helps our channel grow, but also ensures you won't miss any of the upcoming stories we'll share here. So, get ready to be inspired and moved. In the days of the Judges, a time of instability and crises in Israel, the land of Judah faced a great famine. During this hardship, a family from Bethlehem decided to seek sustenance elsewhere. Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, left their home and journeyed to Moab, a foreign land often considered hostile to Israel. Despite the cultural and religious differences between the two peoples, the family sought a new chance at life. When they arrived in Moab, they began to settle down, facing the challenges of a new land and different culture. However, tragedy struck. Elimelech passed away. The loss of the family's patriarch was devastating for Naomi, now a widow in an unfamiliar place. Still, she had her two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to give her strength. Life went on, and the two young men eventually married Moabite women. Mahlon wed Ruth, and Chilion married Orpah. For about 10 years, they lived in Moab. However, more sorrow befell the family when both Mahlon and Chilion died, leaving Naomi and her daughters-in-law without husbands, children, or prospects. Heartbroken, Naomi felt there was nothing left for her in Moab. Without a husband, sons, or a means of support, she decided to return to her homeland in Bethlehem after hearing that the Lord had provided food for his people once again. In an act of compassion and love, Naomi urged her daughters-in-law not to accompany her. She believed their lives would be easier if they stayed in Moab, where they could remarry and start over. "Return home, my daughters," Naomi said to Ruth and Orpah. "Why would you come with me? Do I still have sons in my womb who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband, even if I thought there was still hope for me. Even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons. Would you wait until they grew up? No. My daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you because the Lord's hand has turned against me." Naomi's words were filled with pain and resignation. The daughters-in-law, also in mourning, wept with her. However, Ruth and Orpah responded differently. Orpah, though reluctant and tearful, decided to follow Naomi's advice. She kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and returned to her family. Ruth, however, remained steadfast. When Naomi insisted that Ruth also return, Ruth responded with a declaration of love and loyalty that echoes through generations. "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Faced with such determination, Naomi had no choice but to accept Ruth's decision. Thus, the two women began their journey back to Bethlehem. The trip was not easy. They crossed arid landscapes and faced many hardships. However, Ruth remained faithful to Naomi, offering emotional and physical support to her mother-in-law throughout the journey. When they finally arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred by their return. The women of the town could hardly believe it. Can this be Naomi? But Naomi, overwhelmed by her losses, replied, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? "The Lord has afflicted me, the Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." Despite her sorrow, Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest, a time of intense work and renewed hope. To survive, Ruth took advantage of an Israelite law allowing the poor to glean fallen grain during the harvest. She asked Naomi's permission and went to the fields. By divine providence, she ended up gleaning in the field of Boaz, a close relative of Elimelech, Naomi's deceased husband. Boaz was a wealthy and respected man known for his kindness and integrity. He noticed Ruth working hard in the field and asked his workers about her. They explained that she was the Moabite woman who had returned with Naomi, showing great loyalty and dedication. Boaz, impressed by Ruth's character, decided to take care of her. He approached her and said, "Don't go and glean in another field. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled." Surprised by his generosity, Ruth bowed down and asked, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes, a foreigner?" Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. How you left your father and mother and your homeland to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Ruth returned home with an abundant amount of barley, the fruit of Boaz's kindness. She told Naomi everything that had happened, and Naomi was filled with hope. Recognizing that Boaz was a family redeemer, someone who had the right and responsibility to protect the family's lineage, Naomi began to devise a plan to secure Ruth's future. Following Naomi's advice, Ruth took a bold step. She prepared herself, dressed in her best clothes, and went to the threshing floor where Boaz was resting after work. During the night, she lay at his feet, a symbolic act of humility and a request for protection. When Boaz woke up and saw her, he was surprised. "Who are you?" he asked. Ruth replied, "I am your servant. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a family redeemer." Boaz was moved by Ruth's actions and acknowledged her virtue. He promised to do everything he could to protect and care for her, but mentioned that there was a closer relative who had the first right to redeem her. He assured her he would resolve the matter immediately. The next morning, Boaz went to the city gate, gathered the elders, and addressed the closer relative. When the relative declined the responsibility of redemption, Boaz declared his intention to marry Ruth and redeem Elimelech's lineage. The marriage of Boaz and Ruth brought joy and redemption. They had a son, Obed, who would become the grandfather of David, the king of Israel. The women of Bethlehem praised God, saying to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." Naomi, once filled with bitterness, now found joy and hope as she held her grandson in her arms. The story of Ruth and Naomi teaches us countless lessons. It reminds us that even amid profound losses, there is room for hope and new beginnings. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi, her courage in facing the unknown, and her faith in a God she barely knew are deeply inspiring. Likewise, Naomi's journey from despair to redemption highlights God's grace in bringing joy where there was once sorrow. What can we say about Boaz? He exemplifies kindness, integrity, and obedience to God's laws, acting as an instrument of God's restoration. This story is a living testament to how God works silently, transforming tragedies into blessings and using ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary purposes. May this narrative inspire us to live with more faith, compassion, and trust in God's plan, even in the face of challenges. Let us remember that, just as with Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz, God can use each of us to bring light and redemption in the darkness. If this story touched you, please leave a like on this video. This helps our channel grow and reach more people with messages like this one. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to receive updates on our latest content. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and transformation. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you in the next video.